The thing is, when people talk about reparations, people think reparation is just money. No, reparation is also healing, right? When people hear reparations, they think of money. But this isn't about money, it's about healing a nation's soul. America's sickness isn't financial, it's spiritual. And until the descendants of the enslaved are honored, restored, and compensated, this land would keep bleeding from the same unhealed wounds. Reparations are not about revenge, they are about restoration. You can't erase centuries of trauma with silence. You can't heal a broken foundation with denial. Reparations mean acknowledging that the wealth of America was built on the pains of Black Americans. But it's not just about writing checks, it's about writing truths into history. It's about giving Black Americans the power, access, access and ownerships that was stolen from them. The healing starts when the nation admits that it profited from stolen labor and then begins to restore what was taken, their lands, their educations, their business opportunities, justice, and dignity. Until that happens, America will remain spiritually bankrupt, rich in dollars but poor in peace. Because every time the country ignores the cries of Black America, it invites more chaos, more division, and more judgment. Reparations are not just an economic issue, they are spiritual obligations. God requires that balance. And the same God who heard the cries of Israel in Egypt has heard the cries of Black America in this land of America. Anyways, let's watch these few videos. I'll be back with the closing. Please make sure to subscribe, like, and share these videos while we watch. Let's keep watching.
I just saw a real sad sight, and it was a girl crying. I'm not sure if she's I'm assuming she's an immigrant. I'm not sure, but she was crying about the birthright citizenship thing, right? And I felt bad for her, but I didn't know what to say because apparently someone in her family or some of her family must have voted this way. But here's the thing that her parents or her grandparents did not understand when they made that vote. Okay? When you do not protect Black America, you hurt yourself. When you do not protect Black America, you end up hurting the globe. And that's just a reality that people, when they come over here, they have to understand. When you do not protect Black America, you hurt yourself. This country never functioned without Black America. The good in this country came through by Black America. There's some things they don't teach you in history class. Okay? Democracy would not be what it was if it were not for Black America. So when you mistreat Black America, or when you think you harming Black America, or when you think you're doing something to Black America, trust and believe every single time you do it, you're gonna hurt yourself. So until your grands or your grandparents or your parents understand that.
So I don't think a lot of us can conceptualize just how much wealth a lot of white families have that over Black families in the United States. Okay? Like, I don't get that you understand just how vast the difference is. Okay, so I was talking to one of my white girlfriends a few weeks back. And so she's telling me, I don't want to stay with my husband. I'm like, girl, stay with your husband. His parents are doctors. You know, she has a child that's autistic. And I was like, he always pays for the child to, have a babysitter whenever you want to go out. Like, you really don't have anything to worry about. It's very comfortable for you. She said, well, he doesn't pay for a sitter. His parents has an able account. What? What is an able account? What is an able account? Have you guys heard of these? Okay, so an able account is when you have someone in your family with a disability. You can put money up for them, tax-free, to take care of all of their needs related to that disability. I told her, girl, I said, I sure wish I was able. I don't know. Not that I wish I had a disability, but all of these tax breaks and loopholes for the extremely wealthy that exist. I'm just like, girl, not that long ago, I met a man. Yeah, Mosi, I lost everything about 10 years back, but thanks be to God, I got about 100 acres down there in Loudoun County. How you lose everything in the negative? 10 years ago, now you have 100 acres and a vineyard and on part of the Potomac River. 10 years later. I don't think you guys understand just how connected and how vast this wealth gap is. I mean, playing a game that you can't win almost. You know what I'm saying? You just really, really can't. So when you have people who are saying reparations are necessary, they have such a big advantage that there's no way you can ever catch up, and it was built off the labor of Black people. I think it's fair. I think delineation is necessary and fair, considering just how big that wealth gap is and who actually helped those people to be wealthy.
I don't support reparations, and here's why. First, who would qualify? None of us today were ever slaves. None of us today were ever slave owners. There is no fair way, no realistic way of really trying to determine who would get what.
Foundational Black Americans are the ones owed reparations, and we're owed reparations from the federal government. The federal government owes the descendants of the slaves who built this country reparations. The descendants are easy to find. You can easily figure out who we are, and America has already paid descendants of other communities that they've aggrieved reparations. So this is not a new concept. The whole, well, nobody is a slave owner today. Well, the wealth from slavery still exists today, and the American government needs to repay their descendants, the descendants of the ones that they enslaved. It's very simple.
Black people still want reparations. And I was talking to my friend the other day, and he said that he grew up in a single mother household, and it was absolutely horrible because he had no idea who his dad was. And I jumped in and I said right away, how do you think that you deserve reparations if you don't even know your father's lineage? And he looked at me and we both just chuckled, and it reminded me of a time where back in the day, we used to make fun of stereotypes. We used to make fun of a certain group that loved chicken and watermelon. And, you can offer these things to those people and they'd laugh, but they'd still eat the watermelon. And then we'd say things like, takes one to know one. And we'd also say that certain people weren't allowed to bring food to the cookout because they don't know how to season their food, so it's best for them to bring the silverware and the paper plates because that would support the mission the most, the best way that they could. And so it's like we've gotten into this point now where you can't even play with stereotypes, because back then we still loved each other and we still were able to hang out and we're still able to be families. Back then we used to look after our communities a lot better. But we've gotten to a point where people are just so sensitive, they can't handle anything. And everything is racist and everything is bad. And if you look at our children, you realize that they also too can't handle anything anymore. There's no more resilient children because they are so emotional about everything. Society is just, I don't know, it's just sad right now. It's pretty pathetic.
Hey, this is just my opinion, you know what I'm saying? I'm just thinking outside the box or whatever, but at the same time, I want to talk about reparations to the Black Americans. I feel the reason why it's so hard for Black Americans to get reparations is due to the fact that this land is your land And the entities that's on this land are robbing us blind. They're stealing everything. Like, let's say, for instance, like a robber that's going to rob the bank. Do this robber got a plan to only go get a certain amount of money from out of the bank, or do they plan to go clean that bank out? You feel me? Even a jewelry store thief, they're not going to leave everything behind. They're going to wipe it clean. You feel me? Or art thief, whatever, any kind of thief. They're going to wipe everything out. And now a lot of them don't get away with everything, but at the same time, their mind frame is still the same. Go in there and clean house. If this was your land, then why would I give you anything? Especially if I'm stealing off of it. And the cold part about that is a lot of us don't have our eyes open to that part. Like, we think that we deserve something that already belongs to us. You feel me? That's crazy work, huh? And I'm going to show you something. Like, with all these entities that come in here still to the day, look, they come here with nothing, but they're granted everything. Even a stipend to live off of money monthly. And it could be between $2,500 to $10,000. Now think about that. Monthly, you getting $10,000 monthly with free housing, free food, free health care. You know what I'm saying? Free everything for 7 or 8 years. Come on, man. And then you might even be granted businesses and everything along with that. But we not. That's because this is ours and we paying for everybody else's reparation. They feel they came from somewhere else, which is still people in these lands, you know what I'm saying? They still got people over in these lands that's living just as good as they want to and will never come to the United States for nothing in the world. But it's these other characters that come here, they cry like they're running from the most horrible thing ever, and they'll come here and clean house right along with everybody else. And they don't have no respect for us. It's time to wake up, for real. Facts.
Baby, whether you feel like your ancestors came over here through the Atlantic slave trade or they migrated here on their own accord, let me tell you, it is time for us to tap into our business. Africans is working with American leadership to tap into the black reparations. Yeah, the money that belongs to us, everything that belongs to us, they are saying how they were affected 400 plus years later, and now you're saying that you're the fuck affected by the Atlantic slave trade because you came over here, you got your ass whipped, you got beat, you got mentally destroyed, emotionally destroyed, you got all of that, so now you think that you're owed something? Bitch, you're owed nothing. But what you do owe is an apology to black Americans. See, I ignored the Essence Festival thing. Not my monkey, not my circus. But now that I'm looking around, I'm like, oh, that's what they're doing. They're trying to destiny swap. They're coming over here. They're taking off their attire. They're adapting to our attire. They're using our slang. They're eating our food. We have no culture, they say, but yet when they come here, they are no longer looking like an African on American soil. They're very much looking like an American. But yet we have no culture, so what are you doing? What are you eating? What are you wearing? What are you listening to? What the fuck are you engaging in? If we have no culture, you're engaging in black culture because you're damn sure not engaging in white culture. You're damn sure not doing that. So you think that something is owed to you? Baby, the way that we need to throw the fuck hands, and and the only reason I say throw the fuck hands because how dare you? How dare you? Nah. Throw the fuck hands. Like, I really feel like it needs to be some hands thrown, and I really feel like we need to handle them and let them know, take your ass back the fuck home, and ain't shit over here belong to you.
This is one of the most well-articulated pro-reparations arguments that I've ever heard.
On race. It's based on status. A black person who comes here from Nigeria or Jamaica or Brazil, they're not owed a penny from America. They chose to come here. We are talking about the people who are freedmen, the descendants of people emancipated by this country. We still know those people because you are one of those people. I am one of those people. A lot of those people here in the audience, I just told you I could break down my genealogy. My dear Nana was 101 when she died. My great-grandfather just died 3 weeks ago. He was 100. He remembers fighting alongside white veterans in World War II. He remembers coming back and seeing his white veterans get homes and lands and pensions and the door being slammed in his face. And we are going to say that America that says liberty and justice for all, that's okay, get over it, keep it moving. But we have to hear never forget for everyone else's tragedy. And as far as from where reparations will come, I need people to stop thinking it's going to come from their tax dollars. Look at all the trillions that America spends right now. We talk about inflation, the invisible tax. We have something called the PPP loans. Do we remember the PPP loans? America spent $6 trillion on PPP loans. You know what they just did? They canceled all of it. And we didn't even know. America gave the corporations, the banks alone, $29 trillion. You know what they did with that? They canceled all of it. So let's start acting as if America is as hamstrung by debt as they want to pretend.
You want to talk about reparations? We pay reparations. What do you mean you want reparations? Our taxpayer dollars, which are mostly white people paying that, goes to, affordable housing, government programs, EBT, scholarships, DEI, you guys getting jobs. Holy shit. Let's take all that, factor in the theft, factor in the crime, factor it in the murders, and then we'll talk about reparations on this show. How about that? You probably won't like that, will you? Because you're not going to like the numbers. But we are all, frankly, exhausted.
I'm going to play this clip for you from AOC from the other day, which is an example of a few things. But one, how Democrats play on the intellectual era that we are in right now, doing speeches using revisionist history, but also how this particular revisionist history plays into AOC and Bernie's beliefs about reparations to the descendants of chattel slavery.
And I want us all to remember to know that the future, our future, is not determined by a despot in a house built by enslaved people. Our future will be determined not in a house built by slaves, but in a city built by freemen, in a city built by unionists and immigrants and suffragists. The bricks laid by working people past, present, and future, the seamstresses and the unionists who paid for our rights in blood.
Now, it's revisionist because enslaved indigenous Africans also built New York, also were enslaved in New York. Wall Street is literally African burial ground, okay? Wall Street is a former auction block. So it's very important not to revise New York City as some beacon of light for indigenous Africans or this free space, right? It wasn't, right? In so many ways. However, I think that this truly highlights some of her views on reparations that she said at South by Southwest in 2019.
Like reparations, how much do you think those considerations should be made?
It's a good question. I think that one of the things that we've seen from early polling, actually, I think that we should distance ourselves, start getting away from this idea that we should only care about ourselves. Because when we really do start to assert and believe and understand, see how our destinies are tied, we kind of get away from this idea that only people of color care about other people of color and only white people care about other white people and so on. There are a lot of systems that we have to dismantle, but also it does get into this interesting area of where we are as a country about identity, because like what does it mean to be Black? Who is Black and who isn't, especially as our country becomes more biracial and multiracial. Same thing with being Latino, same thing. It brings up all these questions of like passing and things like that. But I do think it is important that we have to have substantive conversations about race beyond like what is racist and what is not.
I invite you to go back and watch that entire clip as well. It's an hour-long interview at South by Southwest in 2019. And I think it's interesting that right before she's asked about reparations, she literally is talking about the impacts of redlining to Black communities of color. She clearly knows what race is, but when it comes to reparations, all of a sudden, no clue. And this is my largest critique of AOC. It's like, it is very much giving, let's talk about race and racism until it no longer serves me, until I can't. So I don't need to talk about, that's not going to work for me to talk about reparations, right? I'm not going to do that. Clutch my pearls. What is Black? You're literally talking to someone that is Black. I can't believe that the person that was interviewing her kind of stepped over that. I'd be like, what you mean? What is Black? I am Black. And the multicultural point, that's also tea, because it literally shows what these politicians are trying to push. All of a sudden, if there's a biracial person, there's no longer a need for a conversation around reparations. Pay attention. It also makes sense, AOC's revisionist history, her views on reparations, because of her biggest mentor.
Reparations.
Well, what do you mean by reparations?
By reparations for slave defenders.
I know, but what does that mean exactly?
Money.
I think that right now our job is to address the crises facing the American people and our communities. And I think there are better ways to do that, just writing out a check.
I'm saying it. They tell you to get over slavery because they don't want you to understand. When you talk about an atrocity, you'll start talking about restitution. They don't want to talk about restitution because everybody has gotten restitution except the people that actually built the country, except the one that never asked to come here. Now you say, why y'all belly aching over that? I'm not belly aching. I'm telling the truth. Because they owe us $6.something trillion. That's what it will cost to pay off the debt of just the unpaid wages of 100 million people that died and was trafficked across the Atlantic. Greatest atrocity in history. And I just decided I'm not going to let them go because the Bible's talking about it. Y'all didn't know the Bible was talking about this. That's why we couldn't understand it, because we got this false, weak Christianity. I said weak Christianity. I didn't say Christianity is wrong. It's just a weak, watered down Christianity that
pay them back. It is ungodly for you to have debt towards people and willingly not pay it back. In Romans chapter 13 verse 7 it says, pay to all what is owed to them, taxes to whom taxes are owed, revenue to whom revenue is owed, respect to whom respect is owed, honor to whom honor is owed. When you owe somebody and you make the conscious decision to not pay them back, to not give them what they're owed, you are moving against God. They may forget about it, but God didn't forget about it. So if you have that money that you owe somebody, pay them back, especially if you want to walk with Christ.
One of the most common responses to the fight for reparations is like, oh, why shouldn't we pay like every historical group that we've ever wronged? I think this question actually misses the stated purpose of reparations. A lot of people mistakenly think that reparations is supposed to be like an apology, which stems from a very Western idea of crime and punishment, which is like, oh, I did something wrong. Here, now I'm gonna pay for it. That's not what reparations is. Reparations is a form of restorative justice. It's not so much focused on the past as it is the future. Because right now, race relations in America is fixated on a sticking point, which is that Black people have been getting robbed. And you don't have to go back as far as sharecropping or slavery. Your parents' generation probably dealt with things like redlining, eminent domain, and urban renewal. These are processes that have consistently and systemically removed wealth from the Black community and taken it elsewhere. Like Malcolm X said, progress is not just removing the knife out of your back, it's healing the wound. Notice that he also didn't say that progress was litigating the person that stabbed you. That's not really what we're about here. But the best the Black community has ever gotten from America is promises that they won't do that specific form of oppression anymore. That's not progress. As someone who would never in a million years qualify for reparations, when you analyze Black American history, it is a history of getting robbed, and they're still getting robbed. And the thing is, the consequences of that robbery don't just fall onto the Black community. We all suffer because of this open wound that exists in our country. Until the United States can take accountability for the stolen wealth that it has built its empire upon, we can never fully progress. Reparations looks different in all cases, and we still don't know what it's going to look like for African Americans. But what we do know is that they're a necessary first step if this country ever wants to progress past this racial fixed point. If not, we're constantly going to be coming back to systemic racism and ultimately to slavery. Why are African Americans poor? Why are they less likely to own homes? Why do they go to jail more often? Why are they more likely to be the targets of environmental and medical racism? Because they keep getting robbed.
Do you support reparations for American descendants of slaves? How can you possibly justify taking money through force taxation from someone today who was never a slaver, whose families were never slavers, who has never been involved in slavery in any way, and giving it to someone today who was never a slave, who has never been a slave, whose parents weren't slaves, whose grandparents weren't slaves? None of that is to diminish the horror of slavery, but to say that reparations is a nutso solution.
Did America benefit from slavery?
I didn't.
But did America's history benefit from slavery?
I mean, no.
All right, so I'm going to ask this very, very, very directly. It's a very way for this. Did your parents receive anything from the New Deal, and specifically Social Security?
Perhaps not yet. They probably will.
So
perhaps
you don't
Social Security.
Yeah, American descendants of slaves were excluded from Social Security as a means of public policy. So when you look at the position that American descendants of slaves are in, that's generational poverty. So you're going to have to be very explicit about the reason why you're doing this thing. We have to recognize that the assets were taken from American descendants of slaves, and it's the federal government's job to redress.
Hundreds of years ago, I would have supported it at the time.
At the time, we're talking about the 80s, my friend.
We're talking about slavery.
We're talking about as recent as, no. Let's not do that. If we stay on slavery, then we stuck there forever. It's slavery that led to Jim Crow, that led to redlining, that led to the war on poverty, that led to the war on drugs, that led to the situations that even your partner cited.
Yeah, and
that's the government's job.
You want to respond to that today by discriminating again on the basis of race, reinforcing the divides. Again, instead of, I mean, we can't go back and change the past. We have to move forward without reinforcing divides, without discriminating on the basis of race, without taking from one group to give to another. We have to move forward for equality for all, not try to look backward. And
the U.S. should pay black people reparations.
Yeah.
The U.S. should pay black people reparations. 3, 2, 1, go.
Without it. I will say though, it's not just black people. U.S. owes a lot of people money.
The U.S. doesn't exist without black help, African Americans.
Hands down, at every stage.
I'd like to correct it though. I think something should be done for the descendants of slaves.
That's
Okay.
that's why I was like, I'm
I
not
took it
going to
as
speak
black
more.
Americans. I took it as black Americans.
Yeah, because I feel like my family just got here in the 70s. So like, do I feel like I deserve what a person deserves whose family has literally been through slavery? No.
Well, the question you asked was a good question.
Yeah.
Do you deserve? I think yes. But how much do you deserve in comparison to others with longer history here? That's the next question.
Why does a recent immigrant from Africa that came maybe 10 years ago deserve money?
There is systemic oppression still happening today. So they're still impacted. It may not be the same degree, but they're still impacted. And reparation for me doesn't mean here's $5 or here's $1 million, one individual black person. It means what are we doing to repair the community that we have disenfranchised in our society. That's all it means to me.
Yeah. I mean, anyways, I think reparations, the term to me is people look at it as like getting a check.
Right.
And a check needs to be cut. don't make no mistake about that. A check need to be cut because the wealth of this country was stolen from our labor, bro.
Yeah.
So, and don't think just because you from Africa, you don't deserve none of that either. Because they did a number on Africans as well.
Yeah, welcome back to the closing of this whole topic, right? Let's go into it. America's healing will not come through politics. It will come through repentance. When this nation finally says, we are wrong, and begins to make it right, then the cost will lift. Reparations aren't charity. They are a spiritual reset. Because when you pay what you owe, you free yourself from the depth of guilt and judgment. Until then, the wound stays open. But the moment restoration begins, peace will return to America. Reparations are not just money. They are the beginning of healing and the proof that America is finally ready to be made whole. Did I just say your mind? What do you think? Let me see it in the comment. I don't want to talk too much. I'm really not feeling fine. But the best you can do for me is to watch these videos till the end, right? Go watch my videos that I made today, please. Make sure you watch my videos till the end, right? That way you're supporting me and you're saying, oh, blessing, I like what you're doing. Keep doing it, right? Yeah. The other video I did, some people came in and they said that they don't like the words I use for America, that I should stop it, blah, blah, blah. It made my spirit get very, very cold. And I'm like, God, should I still continue with this? Because if you notice, my demeanor, it's just not giving anyways. But let me hear thoughts in the comments, right? Do not forget, it's Beejay on Global Just with Beejay. I'll see you next time. Next channel. Bye, guys.